Mr. Dinesh Krishnan has a wealth of experiences and insights to share with us. In this video, we're going to continue interacting with him and find out more about what does a photo editor do and what are the responsibilities of a photo editor. So let's go over to Mr. Dinesh Krishnan.
So let's continue with our discussion with Mr. Dinesh Krishnan. As a visual editor for The Hindu, what does your work ask of you? What kind of work do you do? I mean, how do you select the pictures on a daily basis and for the kind of publications that you're responsible for?
So, I mean, there is, my role is, since you're asking about what I do for The Hindu, and my role is about mentoring, guiding, you could say, coaxing 65 odd photographers, 65 actually, not odd, 65 photographers across the country. We have people from the tip of the country, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, to Srinagar, and we have people in Gujarat and up to Assam. So we have people all across. We are truly, in the essence of it, we are spread all over. So I have a sense of almost everybody, about what everybody is doing. That's one kind of, and if I know that there is somebody who is doing a particularly special assignment, and if there is something which I think and it's, unfortunately, I would say, I'm saying unfortunately, all of them are men. All of them are men. It's something which I'm hoping that soon this field will change. There will be women who would be coming in as photojournalists. That's a different conversation. Anyway, that's very unfortunate, because the way a woman would see a same news event would have a different take on things. But that's a different discussion. So what do I do here? 65 men. So across the country, if I know that somebody is doing a particular story which I think I want to have, I want him to have a particular, way of looking at it, I would call him and say, I want you to take, these kind of images, keep these things in mind when you're going there, because, yeah. And he would do that. That's one kind of a role I do. So it's a kind of a guiding one before they shoot. The other thing is, by evening, their images start coming in. Roughly, in a day's work, I get about 1,000 odd images from the staffers alone, okay? Sometimes 800, sometimes 1,000 images from across the country. On a heavy news day, it can even go more. So yeah, about 1,000 odd images I get. And I go through them all to make sense of, what's happening. And even before I go through the images, I know what's happening in the country anyway, in terms of news development. So I know what I'm looking at. By the time it's 4 or 5 p.m., unless it's a big breaking event which happens later, I know for a fact that what's going to be the lead, given the news so far. By around 5 p.m., I know what's going to be so far the big takeaways, big news points. So my images, sometimes they will be news events which lend itself to images. Sometimes they're not. But if they are, I'm going to be making sure that we have images for those lead stories, which I think is going to be there. Sometimes some things may change. News can happen even after 7 p.m., can happen even at 11 p.m. before the paper shuts. So those things we are always ready for. But otherwise, we are ready for what's happened so far, and we are open to kind of, open to news coming in. So I go through these images, make sense of them, and present them at a meeting. So apart from all of this, the Hindu has something which is, which we rather, as photographers, it's something we're lucky. And I'm speaking this for my team. We have a space in the paper called a standalone image, where a photographer across the country, we don't have any problem about where it comes from. As a photographer brings in a picture which he thinks can stand on its own and give a piece of information plus a good picture. So it could be a news development, could be a feature development, news feature development, which is happening in this part of the world. He'll take a picture of it, give a nice detailed caption, and send it to me. So, and if that is interesting enough for a national audience, I go and present it to my editor and say, let's have a picture like this in the page 1. Could be anywhere. It could come from Madurai to, like I said, anywhere from the country. No problems. Sometimes if I find a very interesting picture coming in, sent by the wire agencies, I even use that. No problems about that. At the end of it, when you open a paper in the morning, a good picture in the middle of the page will have a a good impact. So yeah, that's one thing. What else do I do? We have a section in the paper called Framed. It's a photo feature page. It's a centerfold in the magazine. Absolute centerfold. We have a huge space in the middle of the paper, and a photographer goes and does an entire photo story based on one theme. Now that is something which we are proud of, because one of the and you will know as you become professionals, one of the most challenging things for a photojournalist is to try and tell a story and stay with the story with a series of images. And I don't mean a continuum of images. No, I don't mean that. I don't mean to say like, man is riding a bike and he falls down and you're standing somewhere in a corner and by chance you're there and you take the whole series. The guy is coming, he's skidding, he's falling. That's not a photo feature. That's basically, it's more a series of pictures. I don't call it photo feature. Photo feature is something which where, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, let's take Marathwada. Familiar with Marathwada? Some of you will be familiar with Marathwada. It's a region which in Maharashtra which is prone to drought. Now, supposing we send a photographer to go and cover drought in Marathwada. What I'm looking at is, and the photographer is something I would expect the photographer to look when he's going out into the field, is he gives me the sense of the drought from the whole district. It's not going to be a series of good looking images, well shot images, of people struggling for water. No, not just that. That's only the broad theme. What I want to know everything about that drought. The big picture. The big picture means, tell me what is the scale of the drought. Show me the landscape. It's not happening in one or two hamlets. It's happening to a region. Okay, so try and see an interesting way how you give me an opening shot, like a film. Like how you think of a film when there's a camera that tells you, okay, this is a story of this particular village or this particular of this particular district, a big picture shot. Then give me the people who are struggling with that. How will you do that? You can do it through a series of ways. You could show people who are struggling to get water. Maybe it's a well, a big well, which is a deep well, which is very far away. Maybe the only well which is providing water for about maybe 70, 80 villages. I'm not joking. There are villages like that in this country. And there are like, 80, 90, 100 people around one well. Can you believe it? So maybe it's a picture like that. But just don't go give me a picture. I'm just telling you, imagine you're a photographer shooting for me one day. Don't give me a picture of just a well, of 80 people. Okay, that's one kind of story. Try and see if we can step back. Step back and take a picture of the well with 80 people hovering around it, all of them looking into the water, and show me the landscape in the back, That gives me an idea. Oh man, this is like one dry area, all right? And you have this well where everyone is looking into the well. That tells you a story already. Without giving me 100-word, without giving me a 1,000-word story, that picture has already told the story. Imagine, you give me an opening picture of that. Then, there are these young kids walking with water, and they trudge a lot. They're not going to be bikes around there they walk it. Little kids, imagine, kids in our homes won't even get water from the fridge if you ask them twice. Right? So, how many times you would have said that to your own folks? I'm sure you would have. So another aspect which plays out when we choose an image, sometimes it's not even intuition, it's something else. And that's to do with the space. I'm talking about referring to print now, whether it's a paper or a magazine. And supposing my designer or my news editor tells me, boss, बस 4 कॉलम है इसमें, इस पेपर के लिए बस इस पिक्चर के लिए 4 कॉलम जगह मेरे पास, because 2 कॉलम का टेक्स्ट है वगैरह वगैरह. So I have to then see whether the images I have, which one of them works very well in 4 columns. Because sometimes some pictures work very well in 8 columns. Huge space. इतना बड़ा होता तो बहुत अच्छा दिखेगा. I don't have the space. This print is premium. Space is premium. Then I only have that much. Then I have to give a picture which works in that space. Right? So that's what I do. Unless I'm unfortunately landing up with only one picture, then I have to go with what I have. Those are not the days you live for. Otherwise, the normal days, every day, is I try and see, okay, this is going to be a 4-column. I give you a picture which is meant for 4 columns. That's things which you learn. You know for a fact that we have visual sense. You know कि ये छोटे में भी अच्छा दिखेगा, लेकिन ये तो बड़ा होना चाहिए. It should be big. Sometimes when the guy tells me, or the person on the desk tells me, I only have 2 columns, इतना सा जाने वाला है. I'm not going to give something which has got too much of detail and it needs a huge canvas to explain. No, I give something which is more closer in nature that can come across immediately. Those are decisions which you make along while you're working with your team. So those are also the decisions I do as a photo editor.
So basically what you're saying is that the amount of space that is available for you to carry a picture will also determine the choice of the picture.
Absolutely.
So that a picture which has too many elements in the frame will get diluted or minimized to not catch the attention, would not be selected against some which has very few elements, which would be clear in a smaller.
So I'll tell you what, here it is. Look at this picture here on top. Now that's just 2 columns, but it's a close-up. It's close-up. It shows teacups made of clay. It's fine. In that space, it's looking fine. But if in that space, if I'd use something like this, the one on the bottom, all right, in that space, it won't look good. You get it? So I won't know what they're doing here. They're on a wheel. I won't know what they're doing here if I'm going to be using only that much for telling this picture. I'm not saying we get to do it all the time. Sometimes things are in an absolute rush, and sometimes we do make compromises. But that's not the way we are normally. When you have space, work for that space. When you have smaller space, work for that space. Those are things which I do also.
So let's recap, Dinesh. I just want to know if, for the benefit of our students, you said when you're editing, one thing that you're doing is you're looking at pictures that tell you various aspects or various.
When I'm doing a long form, when I'm doing a long form and I'm doing a photo feature, so I need various aspects of that story. Not 8. I told you about the 8 well. Don't give me 8 wells for covering a drought. Show me various aspects of a drought. That's one thing.
So one thing, it's not just doing a head count that you've got your numbers, but what is the depth or what is beyond
various
the surface
facets of it
can be told, which makes it interesting and engaging for the reader, that we get to know more through pictures. So that's one thing. And the other thing that you talked about is when you know that there are constraints of space which determine how much can be carried on a particular moment of time, how many pictures, how many pages,
how many columns,
that would determine that which picture is suitable or appropriate for that space. Right?
Absolutely.
Great. And so that suitability will be determined by how many elements which we are discovering and we are finding out through the course of this course are there in the picture which we can do justice to in terms of the viewer's comprehension and noticing those details there. Right?
No point in giving very small space in a print with a large canvas where you can't even make out, and it prints, and newsprint is newsprint. Newsprint can't give you it's. And one more thing I forgot to tell you, like I mentioned, good thing we continue on this one. What I would give for a website sometimes can be different from what I would give for a print. Sometimes a print, if it is a particularly low in terms of depth, in terms of contrast and all that, I may not even choose it for the print because print has a limitation. It's got 96 ppi. That's it. LCD is 300. Liquid crystal display. I can get you all kinds of details. What you see on a phone, a picture which you might choose, which you shoot on a phone, will look very nice on the phone. The moment I translate that into a newsprint, it may look half as good, less than half as good. Do your math, 96 and 300. That's the difference. Yeah? So sometimes I might reject a picture totally, knowing that it's going to be printed in a particular newsprint. I may even reject it. I say it's not going to work out.
Because of the technical parameters.
Because of the parameters of the fact that there is no contrast in it. It's very low in contrast, it's too flat and it's too dark or whatever, I'll say avoid it. Can we look at different angle, please? Because at the end of it, you might just get one grey patch. You won't know what's happening there.
There's no detail.
Yeah. And different newsprints in India, different newspapers have different newsprints. Not everybody has quality newsprints. For various reasons. I'm not saying Hindu Okay, Hindu does have decent newsprint. There's not a pitch for Hindu, but that's the reality. Tomorrow you might be. There are vernacular papers too which have very good newsprint, and there are English papers too which do not have good newsprint. That's got nothing to do with the intent. Intent of everybody is to give you good content. I'm telling you what may actually be the reason why a photo editor rejects something. Yeah.
In this video, we learnt about the role that a photo editor plays in a news organization. In the next video, we're going to continue our interaction with Mr. Dinesh Krishnan as he talks to us about how photojournalists should handle themselves and how should they face situations when they're out on the field.